This conference is all about energy change, as we know. We've heard a lot of interesting bits and pieces. The main changes coming, as we realize, are conventional fossil fuel supply, climate change, and this other pesky problem of energy return reducing. So here we have some slides from, we're going to return right back to where we started on the conventional fossil fuel issue. And we've got just a very few slides to wrap up from two pioneers in this whole area, known well to some of us here, Jean Laharère and Colin Campbell. They could not be here for a variety of reasons, but they very kindly sent this small number of slides, which I'll present on their behalf. They come basically out of a very large study that was done in the mid-90s for a consultancy, Petra Consultants, that used the very large database, which is now IHS Zero database, and we had Peter Jackson talking about it. And they looked at oil and gas, and both conventional and non-conventional. So it's important to know that consultancy was oil and gas, conventional and non-conventional. It led to an article in Scientific American called The End of Cheap Oil in Scientific American, which is just an excellent article still today, 1998. So if anybody hasn't read it, I strongly suggest you pick it up and read it. Laharère and Campbell, 1998 Scientific American. While I am indeed recommending reading, I will take the liberty of suggesting one other thing that is well worth reading if you want to understand oil and gas, and they're quite key, as we know. If you understand oil and gas, there is a book out there by Professor Shell Alaclet, which is really good. So if you don't feel you fully understand oil and gas and the future and where we've got to, Shell Alaclet's book is excellent as well. So the Scientific American article and Shell Alaclet's book. Now we'll go through these slides. First of all, we start, Jean Laharère is famous for very detailed, very complicated slides that take some time to understand. So they're going to be on the web, but you can look at them if you want. But this is his view of the Bakken. And we just heard about a bet, and so here's another bet. He thinks there's a possibility that the Bakken may peak this summer. Now, it's only a possibility, but he does it on the basis of number of rigs, on the plot of production versus number of rigs, and of the area you can put your rigs on and availability. So he thinks there is and the fact that the production per well, barrel per day per well, has been going down slowly, just starting to go down. As I say, the slides will be on the web. Don't feel you have to understand them, but here is he's not sure, but here is a prediction that the Bakken may indeed peak. Very interesting. Here's a graph you have already seen, and it is very key in terms of understanding global oil supply. It is the difference between that 2P data and the 1P data, the proved and probable. For those who've worked in the area, you know it, but if you don't, it really informs, and the comment we just had from Professor Hughes, it informs the way of thinking about things. If you look at the 1P data, you see reserves going up and up. You don't understand what happened in the past. If you look at the 2P data, you do. It's quite critical. Here's another one. Here's a creaming curve. It's this sort of analysis that was done within that big consultancy report that was kind of in recent times meaning the last 20 years, that let us really understand what we had already understood back in the 80s, that we were going to hit a conventional oil problem about now. Individual forecasts. The main point about a graph like this is you've got Jean Laharére's view about what might happen on production against the standard mainstream convention views. Those conventional views go up and up. Others see it going down. It's going to be very interesting to see how it plays out. Okay, more complicated. Gas against a forecast again. A forecast going up and against the dry gas forecast going down. Going to be very interesting. This is the last one of those. Detailed analysis based on good industry data and some modeling and some assumptions. But this man found one of the largest gas fields in Algeria. He knows his onions, so very interesting to see. So you can see we're early on gas. We're further away from the peak on gas than on coal. But there's every reason to believe for conventional gas, it's coming along. Okay, now I need help. Where's to do the next one, and then we're done. Known to some of you, this very nice slide. This is Colin Campbell when he was out exploring in Colombia. Says new technology, the same old rocks. There is an important point from a technical point of view. We found, as you went back to that reserves graph, and if you push that back to discovery, we found most of the world's conventional oil. The peak of discovery was the mid-60s, 1960s. That's nearly 50 years ago. That's an important point to understand for where we're going forward, and it would indeed inform the view of something like Professor Hughes. We found it in the mid-60s. Why? Because it's the big field. So here is a man on a donkey or a horse going through Colombia looking for it, bandits all around. But it's the big fields you find, and it's the unequal distribution in nature of field sizes, plus the physics of decline, put the two together, that drives the peak. Here we go. Here is a plot. You've got to be slightly careful about this, but this shows very nicely 1930 out to 2050, discovery in the past, and then going ahead, future discovery. It's only regular oil, so it's a subset of conventional, but you can see where we found the oil, the red bars, and then the black is what we've used. You can see since 1980, that's 30 years ago, there's been this gap between discovery and production. So if you want to have a view about the future, you must understand these basics. Here we go. This is Campbell's forecast of the future. The green, you remember, is conventional oil. The red is conventional gas. And you see that, well, okay, there's stuff out there. We will get the non-conventionals, but for a world that climate change accepted, for a world that wanted lots more energy, this is a difficult world. It's part of the interesting challenge. Somebody at the back said interesting issues, the interesting challenges that we face. Last slide, here we go, well known. This is the conventional oil picture. 1900, we had a great deal. We hadn't started using it. 2000, halfway through. 2100, it's gone. Thank you kindly.